Hi everyone, I'm Harv, Ian Harvey, founder of Collective Intelligence, and this is Stuff That Matters Now. Welcome back everybody. I am in Christchurch today with Hamish Ramsden, and it's an interview that I didn't think I was going to get a wee while ago, and so I am very thankful to be here, Hamish, and Hamish has just published a book which we're going to talk about. Not in detail because it's better if you read the book. It is a stunning read. Hamish sent me a copy, and it's got a fabulous title which we will ponder on at some stage. So Hamish, thank you for this interview.
Thanks, Harv. Yeah, I'm poised and ready to go.
Poised and ready to go. So I knew Hamish from a long time ago when we were both in the farming industry. And Hamish, can you just give us some background so these guys can get a context of where you came from, where you grew up?
Sure.
Stuff.
Yeah. I was born in Dannevirke, Southern Hawke's Bay town, in 1963. So it puts me at about 57. And long story short, went through Lincoln University.
You got born and then went to Lincoln?
No, not quite. No, I wasn't quite that intelligent. But boarding school in the Wairarapa. Then ended up working on a East Coast hill country farm out from Masterton, out at Riversdale for a couple of years. Then went to Lincoln for 3 years, did an ag comm. But the bright city lights were just a bit attractive, so I thought, well, probably always knew I'd go back to the farm, but wanted to work in the city to scratch that itch. So did that for a couple of years, and then went overseas for 3 years, and came back to the family farm where I was a fourth generation.
So the family farm is where?
In a little place called Coomera, which is just out of Woodville, which is sort of right on the border of Hawke's Bay and Wairarapa.
Right, yep.
Hill country breeding unit. And so, fourth generation farmer there. Started there, came back from overseas onto the farm at about the beginning of '92. What was
the itch about the city light thing? What was that about?
Well, I just liked the idea of having things a lot more accessible, being able to play sport without having to travel an hour each way off the farms. You know, going to the movies, easy to go to the pubs. Wasn't a great nightclub man, but just things were a lot more accessible and a lot easier.
Yep.
And I just wanted to, perhaps as I say, scratch that itch or find out about that itch to make sure going back to the farm was the right choice.
Right. And the sporting scene, Hamish, so all the Ramsdens are sporty?
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, played a bit of rugby, or a lot of rugby actually.
Yep.
So in A-grade division in Canterbury. And loved my cricket, did reasonably well cricket at school, but just played sort of social cricket.
Yep.
But very active tennis as well. So love my sport, always have.
So what position in rugby?
Yeah, sort of almost anywhere in the back line, but predominantly first five or fullback.
Right.
Yep.
And
a slow, mysterious, prodigious spinner of the ball, left arm round the wicket. So always love my cricket.
That was the thing that you were known for.
Well, yeah. No, in which way you could argue, but yeah.
And so going back onto the family farm that wasn't necessarily because you've got two older brothers.
Yep.
So going back into the farm in Coomera was not a definite or whatever. That was something that you actually considered, and it was a planned move. Not something that was always that you were going to do.
No, I think it was probably deep down. I always knew that I probably would. But my grandfather always gave me great advice. Best years of your life, he reckoned, were from when you left school and before you settled down. So I just wanted to stretch that out as much as I could, really.
Right.
So it was probably always there, but as I say, I wanted to do the travel bit and work in the city as well.
Right. And you met your wife where?
On Eos in the Greek islands. One too many Uzos, but did a lot of travelling with her. and she came back the same time as I did, beginning of 92, I think it was, and we were settling on the farm together.
Right.
And got back, got engaged, and got married.
So what's the draw? What's the draw to you on the farming thing? What was the thing that spun your wheels?
Loved working outside and loved animals, basically.
Yep.
Those two, yeah.
Yep. And your old man was a great farmer, wasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. He'd spent 50 years developing the farm. Cut a lot of scrub, subdivided, put in a water system, a lot of fertiliser. So I'd got back and was looking forward to try and take it to the next stage, which was stock performance, really.
Yep. And because Andy, your older brother, was on. How did I never worked out how that worked? He was there as well, wasn't he?
Yep. So three of us, and he'd wanted to farm in his own right, so we'd had a amicable family farm division, I guess. So he had probably a third of the farm, probably not quite, subdivided off so he could run that in his own right, or surveyed off. And when I came home, I was running the rest of the old block on behalf of myself and my brother Jeremy, really.
Yeah. And Jeremy's he was in the army at that point,
and still is. Still is.
And he's a colonel, isn't he, or something? Is he a colonel?
Yep. Or lieutenant colonel, is that high or low?
Yeah, I've got no idea.
I should know.
Yeah.
So
we'll just call him brigadier or something. Just
Sir.
Sir Jeremy. And your parents were living. Were they off farm at that point?
Yep. They'd shifted into Mum's dream home in Dannevirke, and Dad was basically commuting out to the farm each day, which is about half an hour commute.
Yep.
So he was very much hands-on as well, and sort of a guiding influence and obviously advice. But as they always have, allowed me to make my own mistakes and find my own way as well.
Yep.
So he was very progressive from that point of view, without trying to be dictatorial and telling me what to do all the time.
Yep. And so, Hamish, let's go to this book. You've just written this book, right? And we'll have a link at the bottom of this podcast that can be picked up on Amazon.
Yep, you can get it there, and it'll have my email address there if people want a paperback copy rather than an electronic version.
Yep, and the book is called?
Dog's Getting Fat.
Dog's Getting Fat.
Which you abused me about when you first saw it, thinking, why the hell would anyone want to read that book?
I was trying to be funny.
Which worked really well.
It was just, yeah. I'm good like that sometimes. The thing is, you've got to make a cock up, make a big one, right? So Dog's Getting Fat, and as it turns out, is a fabulous title. I was taking the piss out of the title. Who's going to read that shit, right? As it turns out, quite a few people will read that. So what was the motivation for writing the book, Hamish?
Yeah, well, motivation was struggling all the way through, to be honest.
Yep.
It was initially about 10 years ago, my partner at the time suggested that, perhaps I had a story to tell and to write it down. And my initial reaction, as I say in the book, was, why would I want to go there? For two reasons. I'm reliving a whole lot of stuff that I don't want to relive. And why do I suddenly think I'm full of wisdom and knowledge just because I've had a life-changing accident? So I struggled with it a bit, and then I did write sort of a glorified, personalised diary, I guess. So it's pretty raw, very open, and I was convinced, and more latterly, that I really did have a story to tell. Principally on the guys that how does someone go from 100% one day to zero the next?
Yep.
And I was 100% because I loved my sport, loved that physical activity, and being a farmer, it is all physical.
Yep. So then let's go to you'd been on the farm, you'd come home, you're newly married, you're on the farm, you're living the dream. You've been home how long?
We got home beginning in 92, and my accident was October 94.
And so just because most of the people listening to this podcast won't know much about farming, so explain how the accident happened.
Yeah, well, I was part of the farming was Dad was breeding a Salers stud, and a Salers is a breed of cattle. And when you've got a stud, you need to record animals at birth, the sex, their weight, and which cow they're from. So then you can effectively choose the ones that grow better. And so that was a job that needed to be done each day. And so I was marking a calf in the paddock, and by marking I mean you put a tag in its ear, which
So you physically catch the calf?
Yep. And you physically put a plastic tag in its ear.
Yep.
Which I've never had my ears pierced, but probably a bit like that.
Yep.
And the mother, the cow, heard their calf sort of cry out in a moment of pain, and turned and charged me. Now I'd been charged before, and sidestep wasn't working too well that day. Caught me and just threw me back, and it was purely the way I fell. I dislocated my neck, and then she charged me a couple of times after that, and then her calf must have gone running off, so she went to look after her. So basically, paralysed from the neck down as a result of that charge.
Yep. And so farmers who do listen to this is an exercise that's done tens of thousands of times a year on farms across New Zealand. I've done it many times. It is, you've got to be on your game. You've got to be really aware of what goes on. I've been hit by a cow a few times, and they're 500 kilos and they're cross that you've got hold of. Yeah. So you went from active. How old were you then? 20?
No, 30.
30?
Yeah.
So an active person of 30 years of age, and then nothing's working.
That's right. Yep. So I think back to it, and I think, it was pure accident, so that helps you deal with it to some degree. I wasn't a drunk driver or jumping off a roof or something.
Nobody else was hurt.
No, and I've had harder tackles on a rugby field, and so it was just the way I fell, and so that helps you deal with a lot of it too. There's no one to blame. There's no one to point a finger at, and so in an instant, life had changed.
And what are the, it is phenomenally hard to imagine, Hamish, what runs through your head when you're lying there? What happens inside?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, because I couldn't move, luckily I was on my back, not face down, but just shit scared that the cow was backing up for another charge.
Right. Yep.
And it's really eerie. I talk about it in the book. I was just really calm and collected. I was just, this isn't too good. Yeah, probably paralysed. Yeah, I was in the paddock by the road.
Yep.
So hoping I wasn't going to be there too long, but just eerily calm, which was a bit freaky and still is a bit freaky. I don't know why, but pretty well. It was obvious that things weren't good.
Right.
Weren't good.
And and then from there, and we won't get into the detail because this stuff's all in the book. And Hamish, congratulations, because it is a great read, and you have been very open, and it gives you a phenomenal look into the life, of a tetraplegic. So just explain the terminology. Tetraplegia is what?
Well, basically, you lose the use of your four limbs. A paraplegic has the use of their arms and their hands, but obviously not their legs. And a tetraplegic, means that all four limbs have been affected in some way.
Right.
You can be a complete tetraplegic, and I don't like that word because it defines sort of a finality to your injury. But basically, it means, like me, you've got no use of your hands or legs.
Yep.
And an incomplete may have some finger or arm movement or even leg movement, but not very strong.
Yep. Look, I remember your brother Andy, who was a good mate of mine, rang me that night. We were living up in Northland at the time, and he rang me that night, and he was not calm. He was very emotional, and had said that Hamish has been hit by a cow, and I'm going, oh, that's not good. And he goes, no, mate, it's really not good. And I'm going, well, how bad can it be? What's he broken? And he said it's broken his neck, and I'm going, oh, yeah, that's not good. It's sort of, and it was quite a phenomenally somber because, I thought that could have been me so many times, just, that luck or bad luck situation, which is excellent.
Yeah, and that's right. And I've never really had the why me, why not me? And, the hardest part about my whole accident really is how it's affected other people.
Yep.
And that's been, to see your parents really struggle.
Yep.
Yeah, your brothers, your
Yep.
daughter,
Yep.
that sort of thing. Is, I can handle my own rubbish, but to see it affect other people is incredibly hard.
Yeah, and and I saw that with your old man. I played tennis with Graham, the Grey Fox, as he's fondly called, hellishly good tennis player, and as you say, everybody's trying the best they can to cope with the situation, and all differently.
And it's uncharted territory.
Yep.
How do you actually cope with it? Yeah, we're talking 25 years ago, 26 years ago.
Yep.
And so there wasn't a lot of awareness about, about how do you talk about these things? How do you deal with it? You need the support systems around the family, the wives, the children, or whatever.
Yep.
And all the focus was on me. And I wasn't a good talker, probably still aren't. So didn't
You're
talk.
going okay today?
Well, it could go down from here. And so we didn't really talk about it, which didn't help any of us. But you don't really know how to either. And it's hard to talk to close family when, it's all doom and gloom and it's hard.
Yep.
And it's, my thought was, don't talk about it because it's hard and it just only makes people feel bad,
Yep.
feel worse. So wrong thing to do, but it was my survival mechanism
Yep.
at the time.
Yep. Hamish, do you think that there is more support or help now with people with accidents like yours to communicate?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot more support and awareness around the partners and the family. And out at the Burwood Spinal Unit, they've got a group called Connecting People, and they're there to help support the friends and family, partners, and also to put the injured in to contact with other injured people.
Yep.
Because that's where you sort of learn most of your stuff from other people who've been down that path before.
Yep.
Yes, a lot more. There's still a long way to go, but there's a lot more awareness and activity in that space.
Yep. So what would be the one? So if you went through that experience again, what would you do differently as far as communication goes?
Well, I just hope I would talk, and I would just be able to say to Mum and Dad or my wife at the time how I was feeling,
Yep.
and which in turn would give them the opportunity to say how they were feeling,
Yep.
and just to talk about it, to get it out there. You're not looking for answers. There are no answers, and you can't fix things, and you don't necessarily. Well, you want them fixed, but you just want to be heard. You just want to talk.
Yeah.
And that just in my case anyway, it was driven from me, certainly not a fault of Mum or Dad's or anyone like that. It was just I couldn't do it and didn't do it.
Yep. Look, I was with my father in his last 24 hours when he was dying, and he had this wonderful Welsh doctor, and the old man was dying of cancer, and the doctor said, "Now, Mr. Harvey, we need you to communicate with us about how you're feeling." Right? And he goes, his name was Gareth to the doctor, and he said, "Gareth," he said, "I feel like shit." And Gareth went, "Cool, I got it. I deserve that." And the old man just sort of chuckled. It was just like, what a stupid question.
Yeah.
Because, I would imagine it would be just the most difficult situation for Graham and Sally and the family, just going, how do we engage with this? It would be, and what's the right thing to do for you? Because I'd be thinking just about you, and it would be, it would be a phenomenally difficult task. But I've also got to say, Hamish, from a point of view with knowing your brother Andy so well, I've got to say this, I think it's also made his life a hell of a lot richer in many ways as well, because you guys have experienced things that a lot of brothers haven't experienced as well. And just that going through those tough times, it's interesting to watch that bond.
Yeah, and it's very strong with my other brother, Jeremy, as well.
Yep.
And just to hark back to the point that they were looking to take my lead, and I didn't really lead on that front. And part of it was because you're not a family that shows a lot of emotion. It's just by our actions,
Yep.
And it could be as simple as, having a handshake after a game of tennis and say, hey, well done. So we weren't sort of I love you and I need to hear that every day and although that's important, that wasn't the space that I was coming from.
Yep.
And so, just didn't really lead very well on that front, really.
And Hamish, the book, you've got a daughter, Tessa, who's 25.
Yep.
And Tessa was okay with you writing the book?
Yeah, I was very, very aware of the fact that it was opening up old doors, and she was hearing a lot of stuff that she perhaps didn't know a lot about, if at all, and particularly around, Anne, her mother, and my wife at the time, and just what we went through, and the result of what that effect that had on our relationship. And so I ran it past her, and she was a big part of it in the latter stages, just saying, look, if this is too much, if this is too hard, I'm perfectly okay with it not going any further. And she sent me a really cool email one day saying that I need to tell that story, Dad, because I want people to know how amazing you are. So it's been really cool for the both of us, really.
Yeah, shout out to Tessa for doing that, mate. It's and look, I have been on the periphery of your journey, and it was a real privilege reading it and remembering the times that you've touched on, and even as a spectator, I'm going, that is a shit sandwich that you're going through, and to get your perspective and to get that much closer, it was a real privilege. And I think a lot of people want to read it, even who don't know you, Hamish, because to actually get that insight as to what it is actually like. And it's wonderful to be here today and to see where you've got to, which is still not bloody being Skittles, but it's a pretty bloody good place that you've managed to get yourself to. Yeah,
and I struggled with the process of writing the book and letting it out there, because one of my survival mechanisms, if not the one, is just to keep it inside, keep it to myself. And so my CQ group, they said to me, I had a host day a few months ago, and one big thing to come out of it was to be vulnerable, put yourself out there. So if in some way that my story, my tale, helps someone out there, whether they're injured or not, or they've got a friend or a partner or something who's going through it, and they take a wee snippet out of it somewhere, then it's good. Hopefully that'll be good for them. And although I'm coming out the other side, I don't think I'll ever stop coming out the other side. Life's okay. You can have a good life.
Yep.
And so it's just a matter of, how I'm dealing with that and coping with it so I can have a good life.
Yeah. Look, I remember the most extraordinary email Hamish sent me. It was the beginning of, it was January, I can't remember what year, maybe 3 years ago, and I got an email from you going, Harv, look, I'm in a bit of a comfort zone, and I think I'm quite keen to join one of your teams. And I'm thinking, okay, how does a tetraplegic have a comfort zone? All right, that's cool. And I felt really excited and to have you come on board. And, it was interesting because we spent a lot of time designing teams and getting the mix right. And I remember the first team, where we have a process of putting people into teams, and the team's got to accept them. And the first team I put you forward to didn't accept you because there was a conflict of interest between somebody in the team was in business in a periphery with one of your brothers.
Yeah.
So that didn't work, and so then I had to look for another team, and it was interesting to feel how. I don't know, how did I feel? I felt really I wanted to do the right thing for you, and I felt really bad the team hadn't accepted you, and so I took that big responsibility on. No, I took that really personally, and so then I thought, I'm going to because I'm in a team, I was going to bring you into my team. And we had our meeting up in Auckland, we were having breakfast, and I put this idea to them. And the team was already full. And we were grappling with us, do we bring Hamish in? Because I didn't want you to be turned down again, right?
Yeah.
And our scholarship, Alana, a young woman, young Maori woman, really smart, and she said, so Harv, are you saying you want us to make an exception for Hamish? And I went, yep. And she said, would Hamish want that? And I went, no. Yeah. And she goes, cool, so I'm voting him out. He's not coming into the team. And it was just so absolutely crystal clear. And, the irony is that you've gone into this team. It was just, I think it's worked really well. They love having you in there. But it was interesting to see just how it affected me. You being turned down that first time.
Well, I was obviously devastated to be rejected twice. That was, so just absolutely over the moon to be accepted by someone. So it was good. And CQ has been a big part of it. I sent you that email because I was getting to the stage where it's very easy to use your disability as an excuse, whether it's from something as simple as not meeting someone for a coffee or going to the pub or out to the movies, to bigger stuff like travelling and stuff like that, because it is hard and you need to be really organised. And I just didn't want to get to a stage in 10 years' time where I looked back and, oh yeah, that was okay. But it hadn't really... I'm not pushing boundaries, just doing stuff. And CQ's been great because it's got me out of my comfort zone, but it's got me out of Christchurch too. I've been up to Auckland a lot more often to see Tessa and just different parts of the country. So, I guess we strive for normal. Normal's boring, but I want to be normal.
Yeah.
And anything I can do to help me tick that box is okay.
Hamish, I remember the first time I think I saw you after the accident, and we had that negotiating course in Palmerston North, right? And you and I went on it together. There was a few others, and I remember being confronted, just seeing you in a chair for the first time and just going, okay, this thing's real. And then carting you around was really difficult because, getting you into and out of, there's a real art form of getting you in and out of the car. And, back then I was a bit younger and fitter and so it was still bloody difficult. And it was really quite confronting going, okay, this makes all the normal stuff really tricky. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is you can't, suddenly you're in that different world where that little step stops you getting into some place. Or, friends book a restaurant and it's up a flight of stairs. Yeah. And suddenly there's that real reality around it. But there's no margin for error either.
Yeah.
If something happens with my catheter or I get a problem with my skin, could result in me having to be in bed for months and months.
Yeah.
And so, there's no relaxing either. So there's that real reality around it all the time.
Look, I remember Andy and I carting up the stairs and we're laughing and bravado and so forth. And I thought, shit, I wouldn't want to do this every day. It was just like, this is a one-off. And we're taking up the stairs, and the organiser, Johnny, was devastated that he hadn't thought, about accommodating that and so forth. And it looks like we're getting better, Hamish, with public access and so forth. And I remember when that started happening with ramps going in and so forth. And I've got to say at the time, I'm going, oh, this is a bit over the top, isn't it? But when because I'd never been involved.
It's still a long way to go, and I remember turning up to Papa not long after it had been built, and wanted to go and empty my leg bag in the men's toilet. So someone opened the door for me, and then there's a big partition there so people can't view in, and I couldn't get their wheelchair around.
Right.
And this is a new building.
Right.
And so I'm going, really? And I'm not one to jump up and down and yell and scream, but there's still a lot of restaurants say the only way I can get into them is through the kitchen. Around the back and stuff like that. But if you got upset about everything, you'd never do anything. So it's not to say we shouldn't still strive to be better, but if you complained or worried about everything, you would do nothing.
And you think a place like Te Papa, right? With you'd think that was just bread and butter stuff, right?
You hope so.
You'd hope so. Yeah. Hamish, and I'm not going to get into the details of the book because it is a great title for the book. It is a really interesting personal view of your life, and I would really encourage people just to to read it because it's unique. So we're not going into the specifics of that. I'm really interested in. You were in Christchurch, so you moved down to Christchurch, and you were here with the earthquakes.
Yeah. No, I'd just turned around because being a tetraplegic, got no muscle control below my nipple line, basically. And so if I fall forward, I can't sit myself up. And obviously if I fell out of my chair, I can't get myself back in. And I literally just turned around to get to my workstation. I had an office at home. And it struck. And luckily I was side on because I wear a seatbelt now, but didn't used to wear one then. So I got rocked side to side.
Right.
Pretty violently. And then, things went on from there. But I was stuck in my office, couldn't get out, so I had to wait for help there. And then I was in a relationship at the time, and Nadine came rushing home after she'd picked the kids up from school. But then we couldn't just leave town straight away because I needed to take my shower chair, my medical stuff. So it was hell on earth for her having to run inside a two-story shaking building getting my stuff so I could survive. And so it was not a fun time.
That must have been a long few hours, mate.
Yeah, it was. And it was just, it's the old story with the earthquake. Because you can't see it, it's not like a fire where you can run away from. You just don't know what's going to happen next.
Yep.
And when you're pretty vulnerable and helpless in a chair, you really are just waiting for it to happen again.
Yep. And because I do remember that, and I wasn't conscious of it at the time, but Andy mentioned soon after that, and I went, oh yeah, Hamish in a wheelchair and a bloody earthquake, just going, it would be it would be a very, very tough time.
Yeah, well, the house was written off. We couldn't go back into the house, and as I say, my partner Nadine had to get my medical stuff out, so we could leave town for how long we didn't know. So I went and parked up with Andy and Nikki for a good couple of months because
down in Wanaka.
Yeah. Two reasons: A, couldn't shift back into the house. It was not quite condemned, but certainly no good for someone in a wheelchair, and just couldn't find a rental to come back to. Took 2 months to be able to find a rental, because you imagine a quarter or a third of Christchurch is in the same boat, looking for places to stay in Christchurch. Yeah. So, the disability just added another layer of complexity to that whole problem.
Yeah, Hamish, I'll just touch on Nadine because you two were in a relationship for 7 years, which is, I'm not sure if that's usual or not, that somebody ends up, the marriage with Anne didn't work out, and you ended up in a relationship with Nadine for 7 years. That would be, I'm not sure if it's unusual or not, but that would be really unique or difficult for her in your reality, because I'd imagine, day to day, every day is the same.
Yeah, well, big call to come into a relationship with someone with a disability, but she gave me a life that I desperately wanted but didn't have, and that she had 3 kids and we all came and lived together, and they were schooling and stuff, and so it was fantastic. The old sort of white picket fence and kids and stuff. It was really good.
Yep.
But you're right. There's no let up. I can't say, you stay there today. I'll do the shopping, or I'll get you a cup of tea,
yep.
or I'll drive tonight so you can have an extra wine. There's no let up, and so that's hard. That's incredibly hard. And just and people coming in, because I need carers to help me get up in the morning and to go to bed at night, and having invasion of your personal space all the time is just incredibly difficult. And so it's like a slow dripping tap. Slowly the weight gets more and more and more. And it just got to the stage with the earthquake, it was just too hard. When she's trying to look after a family and kids and be safe and look after me. So it's just too hard. And
Hamish, it was tough on everybody, right? And it was tough on people with normal relationships and so forth. They didn't get through. The carers, Hamish, that comes up in your book a lot, and I love the reference to them and what extraordinary people they would have to be to take these jobs on, to be a carer, and we get to see you after the carers have done their bit, right? Yeah. So, and we talked about this before the interview, that we see smiling Hamish at 10 a.m. in the morning, but we don't see Hamish at 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah, and there's a process that I just have to go through each day. And that starts with my carer being reliable and turning up. And if they don't turn up, I can't say, I'll do it myself. I'm stuck in bed. And, that's not a fun place to be. And so you need that reliability. And obviously they're very caring people as well. But there's a process that I've got to go through each day, which I hate, but you just grind your way through it.
So what time does that start?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock?
Yeah.
And do you sleep well through the night?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, actually. I'm very fortunate. Touch wood. I don't suffer from pain.
Yeah.
A lot of people do, which is really debilitating. I get a bit of spasm, which is really just because I'm not actively using my muscles. It's just like them releasing a bit of tension.
Right.
It's like having a big stretch when you get out of bed. So that means the legs and the body jumps around a bit during the night.
Yeah.
But it's a healthy jumping around. It keeps a bit of tone in the muscles and that. Lucky I sleep pretty well.
And what do you dream about?
Yeah, it's weird actually, because in a lot of my dreams I'm not in the chair. There's still after 25 years.
Yep.
And occasionally I might dream that I am in my chair, but I get to some steps and then I stand up out of my chair and walk up the steps.
Right.
And so it's weird. Yeah, it's so I'm not quite sure what the mind's trying to do or not trying to do there. But but they don't upset me. If I wake up in the morning, say I've had a really active physical dream, and I wake up in the morning and then reality clicks back in, well, that's okay. I'm not surprised about it. I'm just still surprised that after all these years, often I'm up and walking and running in my dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, that dreaming thing, it's an odd thing.
Yeah.
So 7 a.m, they go through a process of getting your body working and getting you functioning.
Yeah, which really just, get up, I've got my toileting, showering, getting dressed, do some stretches so that, the muscles don't tighten up too much. And then, grooming, shaving and get set up for breakfast. I can feed myself, but I can't cut up food and serve it and stuff. I have an exercise regime that I'm pretty anal about, but I'm happy to be anal about it, which, it's good for my head as much as my body.
Yep.
And then so normally, 2.5 hours and I'm good to go.
As long as we don't rush it.
That's right. And don't ask me to be spontaneous. Come back in a couple of days and I'll be spontaneous
right.
Then, but I'm not good, and so it's a routine, and particularly exercising, it's good for the soul, and so it's just something that I have to go through that I hate, and you can cut corners here and there, but still a process to go through.
Because the thing is that you look incredibly healthy, right? So sitting across the table from you now, you look, healthy. And I know that you've always had this regime with the exercise, and I also remember your old man. I can't remember what he did. He broke his hip or something, and it was a bad accident, and I remember Andy saying he'd bloody march up hills and march down hills, and just was absolutely determined that this body was going to get working again and so forth. And I remember being out there one day on the farm, and there's Graham, and he's marching up this hill, and he said, "There it goes," and it was just like, I'm going to get this bloody joint working again.
Yeah, well, he fell out of a tree and it sort of separated his pelvis a bit, and then he's had a new hip and a new knee now. But he's so determined. That's I got it from him and from Mum as well.
Yeah.
Just that determination. I mean, before his replacements, he incredibly fit in doing the exercises and leave no stone unturned. So he's pretty gritty like that.
Yeah. Hamish, it's interesting with the family because you guys have got a fabulous base as a family, and you enjoy each other's company. You capable family, and I was thinking about in the lead up to this interview that there would be people who are in a chair who don't have that family support that's as capable as yours. And I'm not talking about from the point of view of emotional love. I'm talking about actually resources and getting shit done, because your family's very good at getting stuff done. And it must be really tough, a whole lot tougher for people who don't have that support that you've had.
Well, absolutely. I guess they are your ultimate backstop, aren't they? If other things fall apart, I need people to stay with me in the house overnight as a safety precaution. And so if for whatever reason my flatmate has to go away or whatever, Mum and Dad are there to fill that gap if I need them.
Yep.
And Jeremy and Andy are there for that support. And so, and I guess I could put a plug in here for ACC. I've had my accident, and so they've been tremendous. If you can show that it's a need rather than a want, it's pretty easy to show that need if you're paralysed.
Yep.
And that not having that sort of huge financial stress is the real biggie.
Yep.
So I live in a nice house in a nice environment.
Yep.
And I don't have that same financial pressure, and that's I think you've got enough to deal with without that as well. And a lot of people don't have that safety blanket.
And Hamish, you still working?
Not well. I volunteer at a local school.
Yep.
3 days a week in the learning support department.
Yep.
And so I'm in the prep school, which is 8 to 12-year-olds, which is a great age to work with. As I tell people, they're just old enough to think I know what I'm talking about, but not too old to tell me to get stuffed. So it works well. And so just kids a little bit behind, a couple of years level, behind their year level reading age or comprehension or maths. Yeah, and a lot of it's just about building their confidence too.
And how do the kids respond to your chair?
Yeah, well, I always try and be and I am as open as they want me to be.
Yep.
And kids can be really brutally honest, which I really find refreshing and enjoyable. But there really hasn't been many questions at all. They just accept it, which is part of being a kid too, I guess.
Yep.
The common questions I get are, what does that button do and how fast does it go?
Right.
And that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the bot, you touched on some of the plonker questions you get from people from time to time, and I did really enjoy that and some of your responses to that. Do you want to pick up on any of those in particular?
Well, there's a couple of them that I mentioned. I think, you just, as I say, when you're out and about, kids will look at you and they'll but if you catch their eye, they keep looking at you.
Yep.
And that's great. Whereas the adults don't, and they get a bit shy. But occasionally you get the odd obnoxious one who just pushes a bit far, and they want to be your personal friend within 3 seconds. And if I'm not in the mood, it just doesn't work. So I either say to them occasionally, and I've only done it once or twice, preferably after a red wine or two, that no, I haven't had an accident. I'm just trying out the chair.
Right.
So I'm planning on having a really bad accident tomorrow, and I just want to see what it's like. Or just go, shit, I didn't realise what's happened here. And that just blows them away. So it normally cuts the conversation pretty short, which is good.
What advice would you give people in dealing with people in a chair? What do you guys need from us?
Yeah, well, I guess turn it back on myself. How have I, deal with it? And I guess for me, it's been not looking too far. If I look and think I might be in a chair in 10 years' time, that does my head in. So let's just worry about today, or even the next hour or next 5 minutes.
Yep.
Just focus on the here and now.
Yep.
And look for the positives. There's always a positive somewhere. You just may have to dig a bit deeper for it. And we just, as I get back to that normal thing again, you just want your friends to accept you and don't treat you as anyone different or special. I mean, I love it when friends come and say, they might go, oh, I've got a sore back and I couldn't do this, or hurt my knee skiing the other day and it really annoys me because I can't do that ski holiday. That's great. That's what I want. I don't want them to say, oh, I better not mention this, or,
right.
Because Hamish would love to have a sore back or a sore knee.
Yeah.
So just be accepted, yeah.
I've seen you a few times on the dance floor. Alcohol was involved, and it was a wonderful thing to see. You jiggling around on the dance floor and just it was. You're not a great dancer anymore, Hamish, got to say, but it was a fabulous thing to see, and seeing everybody actually really okay with that.
Yeah, well, the irony is I couldn't dance before by accident, so sure as hell can't dance now. So you're right, jiggling around, and people just give you a bit of room because you don't want your toes run over, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it makes it. I've got to say that it makes it easier for people, I think, for that. And it's interesting with your personality because you're dry bucket, but you're really bloody funny, and unpredictable with it because. And I'm going to talk about the Catwalk Trust,
right.
Which you and I went to a function with the Catwalk Trust, which they raise money for spinal research.
To find a cure, yep, because basically we want to get out of these chairs.
Yep.
And Katrina Williams, who was a well-known and renowned equestrian, broke her neck, and she's not happy with status quo, like most of us aren't, and wants to get out of a chair and dance with her husband again. And so she set up, with some friends, the Catwalk Trust, which raises money to put into research to find a cure for, because your spinal cord doesn't heal itself. It's the only nerve, if you like, in your body that doesn't heal. You cut your finger, you might get a bit of a numb finger for a month or two, but it grows back. Spinal cord doesn't. And so once you injure it, initially anyway, your body can go into overdrive, and it thinks it's trying to protect the spinal cord, but it actually does more damage.
Right.
So it's almost a two-stage thing. Get the treatment that you need as soon after action as possible to stop your body trying to go into overdrive and protect the spinal cord, and then trying to work out a way to bridge the gap or regrow the nerves over the damaged area. And so, they raise a lot of money for that research, both here and overseas.
And Hamish, the first time, so we ran an event for the Catwalk Trust in Taupo, I think, and got you along to speak. And you are a bloody good speaker. And I know it's a big effort for you to do that. It's not your comfortable place as such. But you remember the night in Taupo when you spoke?
I do, yep. And CQ's been very supportive of the Catwalk Trust. And there was, 50 or 60 there, and
there were 300 in the room. Hamish. 50 or 60.
Live by video, right?
Yeah, you've always been good with numbers.
Right.
No, it might not have been 300, it might have been 250 or something. It was
okay,
it was a reasonable crowd.
Nice. Yeah, no, I remember that, and obviously was pretty nervous about it. But, it's all about raising awareness, isn't it?
Yes, and you're brushing over. And do you remember at the end of your speech?
One or two people had to get up and go to the toilet, I think. So
you got a standing ovation, and I was the MC that night, and it was just quite the irony to watch 250 give you the spontaneous standing ovation. And I remember thinking, oh shit, don't lose it here, because I was feeling quite emotional at that, and you could see people as they were standing, it was sort of dawning on them the irony themselves that they could stand for a standing ovation. But and I think I'm right in saying your parents were definitely there.
Oh, well, Mum wasn't, but Dad was.
Right.
And that was the first time that he'd heard some of my stories or some of my thoughts, I guess,
Yep.
if you like.
Yep.
So, and Andy was there as well.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it was fabulous. The next event we were at was the Catwalk Trust up in Auckland. Different environment. That was a very big crowd at Sky City. It was all very flash. And we were sitting quite a way apart. And Kate and I were sitting maybe half a dozen tables away. And at the end of the night, we came over to see you.
I remember.
And what happened? What went through your mind, Hamish, to set this up?
Well, anyone that knows you even half well knows that you like to put people on the back foot. And quite often that happens with the first comment that comes out of your mouth. And being suitably lubricated, I guess, I saw you coming. And I hadn't met Kate at this stage. And no thought went into it, but we introduced you to our table, and we didn't know. And I say we, Andy was there. Didn't know most of the table. There was quite a few from Australia. And we introduced you as, Harv and CQ. And this is his wife, Kate, who's the past pole dancing champion of New Zealand. And these people just didn't know what to do. She's not the current one. I didn't like to say that she's gone to the pack a bit, but it's a couple of years ago now. And poor old Kate, I hadn't even met her. So indirectly tried to put you on the back foot. And still to this day, I think they just don't know what they encountered.
It was just the most wonderful thing, because I think you must have said that before, because we'd sort of waved out as we were walking to the table, because all of a sudden, mostly the women all turned and looked directly at Kate. And they were looking her up and down as like she was a horse or something, and just looking and these frowns and these looking at the frowns on their face and going, really? and because we were none the wiser, we had no idea. And Andy was going along with it, and you two were just spinning it beautifully. And I remember having breakfast with the four of us the next morning, and we were just killing ourselves when we found out what you'd done.
Yeah, so I still feel a bit guilty for Kate on that one, because she was my indirect route to get at you. But, I think it bemused them at the very least.
Yeah, no, we absolutely love that. And so the present day, Hamish, you are now flatting with, would we call it flatting with Ralph?
Two sad old bastards, yeah. In the late 50s. Yeah, Ralph's a good mate, and we known each other for a long time. We were at university together.
Yep.
Did a bit of travelling overseas, flatted at university as well. And long story short, he was at a bit of a loose end when he came back from England a few years ago, the same time I was, and just suggested that, why don't we go flatting together? As I say, I need someone in the house just for a safety thing. He's certainly not my care or anything like that.
Yep.
And so, it's just great flatting with an old mate.
And I was going to spin in bullshit for this podcast, but because for Sally's sake, because for Sally's sake, that we won't do that. That you and Ralph are lovers, but Sally, that's not true.
And everyone else.
No, just Sally. Great conversation with Ralph beforehand, talking about in preparation that, he said the frustrations on the outside, everything's going along nicely, but the frustrations are skin deep, and it's very easy to forget the battle it is every day to get through the day. Yeah,
and I get around that a lot by, you've got to be super organised.
Yep.
And by that I can mean, I've got a friend here, and they say they shot away, or Ralph shot out for an hour or so, or my carer, and then it suddenly turns really cold and the door's open and I can't shut it, or I need a jersey put on and I can't do it myself.
Yep.
So, I get around a lot of that frustration by making sure I'm super organised. But, it is skin deep, because I guess you get to something and you think, well, surely I've got enough to deal with without this next thing.
Yep.
Particularly if I'm in a hurry or something like that.
Yep.
It doesn't boil over in a big way, but it just, you you sort of think, really?
And Hamish, look, I totally understand that not the problem, but the thing is, you're such a easygoing bugger on the outside. It's a surprise when we find out that you're frustrated because, it happened recently with Collective Intelligence that your next meeting that they've got a venue and they haven't considered or haven't planned or something for your accommodation to be nearby, right? Yeah. And it's bloody easy to forget.
Yeah, but it's things like that. Like I just had an occasion just last week going up to Auckland in January, and I ended up on one of those, book a house, or not a house, but TripAdvisor or Get a Room or whatever. And I kept saying to the guy, "Is it wheelchair accessible?" "Yes, it is." And so I ended up booking it that. And I didn't get a confirmation email, so I rang the hotel directly. "Oh, no, that room's not accessible. Right. You can't do that." I wasted an hour of my life, yes, so I did another hour. So it's those sorts of things. But the reality is there's no point in getting too upset about it, otherwise you would just drive yourself crazy.
Yeah.
And also, if I let that out too often, it just makes other people feel uncomfortable too.
Yeah.
So not that worries them too much, but then no one likes being around a grumpy prick all the time, no matter who they are or where they are. So it doesn't achieve anything by. I'm sure you need to vent every now and then, but it's problems that I need to solve, and then other people can't do it for me.
Yeah, and I think I upset you last month with a glib comment, and I learnt fairly quickly that I had, and I actually appreciate that, right? So that and I didn't know I was out of order. I was trying to be funny, as I try to do. And, I really appreciate the fact that you hauled me into line pretty quickly, and I've cocked something up here and didn't quite know why. And, then when I read the book, I went, it was a really dumb comment. But I appreciated the fact that I knew I'd upset you because, I wouldn't not want that.
No, well, it was a little bit like telling someone their baby's ugly. You criticise the title of the book without knowing what the title was about. And I was a little bit precious at the time. An hour later I was over it. But I thought, no, I'll just flick back an email, pull you back about it.
Yeah, like it was. It was absolutely appropriate, right? And I'm going, and as soon as I'm going, the guy's just bloody put himself out there and written this book, and I'm being a dick, So I think it is really important because it means that I'm not left wondering if if I'm getting feedback.
And you can flip it around and look at it the other way, and also say, it was good that you felt that you could do that too. You didn't treat me as being precious, or she's in a chair, I better not say this or say that too.
Yeah, and it was funny early on, Hamish. I remember there were a couple of times, like getting you in the car that first time and thinking, wish I'd bloody put handles on these bastards so we can sort of get them in and out, because like what do you hold on to and so forth. And I remember another time we were out and I went, Jesus, Hamish, this is went a bit far to get a decent car park, mate. And there were people around me going, what, you can't say that, but you laughed, and I thought, will I say or not? Because I actually thought about that, and I thought, you know what? If you weren't in a chair, I would say something like that.
Yeah.
Going, really? This is about, so it's, I don't think I've ever treated you any differently than I did before. And I think if I started doing that, we'd end up in a really, different sort of,
And that's as much as I want of people. Just treat Hamish as Hamish.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm sitting down, doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. So, Hamish, to round this conversation off, and I often say that to people when there's not a natural conclusion to the conversation. What is there anything that you want to add in, or something we've missed?
No, I think it's just important for people to realise that life's okay. It can be okay, and it is okay. And I have the same stresses and worries and, and temptations and loves and dislikes as anyone else. But I can and I am having a good life. And so that's important for people to realise. We don't want to play the sympathy card. We're not in that space. And back to that normality thing, I want to be normal and I strive to be normal and I want to be treated that way too. But life's okay and people need to just hold on to that too.
What a great way to end the conversation. Hamish, thank you for writing the book. Shout out to Tessa for supporting it. And a shout out to your parents because, you lucked in there, mate, to have Graham and Sally and and Hamish and Andy and Jeremy. It's shout out to them because as a family unit, you guys have done phenomenally well. So if people are interested in the book, they can get it on Amazon and they can contact you. There'll be a link to this podcast. It is a really interesting and intimate read. And I felt very, very privileged to read it. I had tears coming down my face a third of the way into the book, and they were good tears, and it was just like, it gave me a real insight into what you've been through.
Well, thanks, Harp. That means a lot. And I tried to be honest in the book and talk about things as they are. And as I say, life's okay, and people need to remember that too.
Brilliant. Okay, mate. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've just been listening to an episode of Stuff That Matters Now, brought to you by Collective Intelligence. I hope you enjoyed listening to the fun stuff, the rugged stuff, and the complete stuff-ups that have helped this particular Collective Intelligence member evolve while making the world a better place. Do check out our Stuff That Matters Now podcast series on your favourite podcast provider or visit our website www.collectiveintelligence.co.nz to get links to new episodes. Contact us if you want to learn more about how we can help you evolve yourself and others. Thanks for listening.